many times have you seen ads, commercials, or posts for dogs in shelters that need homes? And how many times have you thought, man, I wish I could do something for them? Well, you can. I'm sure over half of you in this room own some kind of animal, whether it be a dog, cat, or any other type of animal. Now, where did you get this animal from? A breeder, a shelter, or a pet store? I am guilty of buying an animal from a breeder and a pet store, but I have also adopted an animal from a shelter, and the joy it gave me to know I was helping an animal in need was a greater experience than I've ever had, and it made me feel good knowing I was helping an animal. This is the kitty I adopted, and then our two dogs, one we got from a breeder, one we got from a pet store. Adopting a family pet from your local humane society or shelter often saves the animal from euthanasia. It saves you money, and it helps with overcrowding in shelters. Today, I'm going to talk about why more people need to think about adopting an animal from a shelter instead of buying from a breeder or a pet store. I'm going to be stating facts about what happens to these animals that are in shelters. We all love and care for our animals as if they were our own children. But not everyone feels that way about their animal, and that is why there is an overabundance of animals in shelters without homes all over the world. The amount of dogs and cats that are bought from a breeder or a pet store is rather a lot, and most of those animals come from puppy mills. I know people want a certain breed, but what people don't often realize is that even shelter animals can be purebred. Not all shelter animals are a mutt of some kind. Animals act different inside of shelters rather than inside of homes. According to the article, Stopping Puppy Mills, posted by the Humane Society of the United States, updated in 2019, most of the animals you buy are from puppy mills. A puppy mill is an inhumane dog breeding facility that only breeds for profit. The animals are locked in small cages with little to no human interaction, and most of the puppies are born with some kind of illness or infection because they don't care about sanitation. As cited earlier in Stopping Puppy Mills article, over 10,000 puppy mills are estimated to be active in the U.S., and over 194,000 dogs are kept just for breeding purposes, and around 2 million puppies are sold each year were born in a puppy mill. About 25% of dogs that enter shelters are purebred. When dogs or cats are found on the streets, a very small percent of them get returned to their owners, and it's usually because of tags, tattoos, or microchips. Have you noticed all these celebrities with their cute little Pomeranians or Chihuahuas? They bought these animals for a lot of money, and they are not leaving a very good influence on the people that follow them. It's making more and more people want to buy animals from breeders for a lot of money, when there are plenty of animals in need that need to be adopted from shelters or even saved off the streets from being strays. According to the Animal Sheltering magazine by Julie Faulkner, posted in 2019, a lot of animals have a completely different personality when they are in a shelter compared to being outside of the shelter. They had a pit bull inside their shelter, and she was reactive towards everyone and everything. She would bark at the workers and the animals and would even bite at their feet. She was one day away from being put down, but a worker volunteered to take her home, and she would be any different. And the director at the shelter was very hesitant, but agreed to let the worker take her home. And as soon as they stepped foot off the shelter property, it's like it wasn't even the same dog. She became 10 times more relaxed and showed her lazy/cuddly side, and she was adopted within a month. So they conducted a research and put some of the animals into foster homes rather than keeping them in a shelter, and they would have been happy if at least 20% of them made it out. But in the end, over 90% of the animals got adopted. So it goes to show you that you don't get the full measure of dogs' personality while they are in a shelter, where they're confused and scared. But if you put them into a home with other animals and show them what it's like, they are completely different. According to Modern Dog magazine, Rescue Me by Steve Duno, posted in 2012, 1/5 of all dogs that are adopted get returned to the same shelter within a few months. But with each return, their chance of getting adopted goes down, and eventually their time runs out. Dogs get returned for multiple reasons, some being the owner's fault, like not being cut out for responsibility of a dog, lack of time or experience, or even the expense. But some of the returns are also the dog's fault. It could be their behavior or characteristics, or it could be the trauma they went through and the new owner not knowing how to cope with it. So this is just goes to show what it looks like inside of a shelter. It's not very nice for them. After being adopted, it takes dogs 3 days to decompress, 3 weeks to know and start your routine, and 3 months to feel at home. This is why many people don't give them a chance because they don't give them enough time to adjust. Now that we know many things about how dogs become strays and what happens in a shelter, let's talk about how we can help them. There are a few ways you can help animals in a shelter without wanting to adopt them. As you know, we see plenty of ads and posts of animals in shelters asking for donations or even supplies. They need these supplies more than we think they do, and here's how we can help them. After talking to our local animal shelter, the Mondack Humane Rescue, they asked for money donations along with supplies because a lot of the animals they receive have either been rescued off the street or were an owner's surrender. And when these animals come in, it is most likely they have never been vaccinated or fixed, and the shelter has to pay to get these things done. Very recently, there were a couple owner-surrendered animals, 3 of them. They were all cats. One of the cat's eyes was completely sewn shut and didn't even look like it was there. They unfortunately had to remove it because it was infected and they couldn't save it. And they're in the process of saving the second cat's eye with a drain tube so that the fluid doesn't back up into the eye. And the third cat they brought in had a shattered leg and they ended up having to amputate it. So yes, it does cost a lot of money for the shelter to take in these animals and get them back into good health. She also mentioned that a lot of people donate things for the animals, which is great, but they also need cleaning supplies to keep up with the kennels and the enclosures, and a lot of people don't donate those things. Their mission statement is the Mondack Animal Rescue is a non-profit corporation dedicated to the promotion of animal welfare. The purpose of the society is the prevention of cruelty to animals, reduction in animal overpopulation through the prevention of unwanted births, promotion of an aggressive adoption program which will seek suitable homes for animals without owners, and the extension of humane education for the public. According to the Humane Society of the United States, here are 5 ways you can help your local animal shelter or rescue. You can adopt a pet, so if you've been thinking about adding another furry friend to your family, make sure you check your local rescue first. You can donate. This will help them cover any vet bills they may have and also keep up with the cleaning of the rescue and feeding the animals. The third thing you can do is donate your time. Rescue and shelters are always in need of volunteers to help clean the kennels and take the animals for a walk, or even just give the animals company. The next thing you can do is become a foster. Sometimes the rescues become too full to accept any more animals, so fosters become very handy. You provide a safe home for the animal to stay in until it can find a permanent home. The last thing you can do is help at your own home. To prevent more animals going into shelters or rescues, you can spay or neuter your pets, get them microchipped so if they do become lost, they can scan it and find you again. Also, if you bring your animals outside, keep them in a fenced yard or on a leash. According to the Animal Wellness magazine published by Anne Brightman on April 21st, 2014, another great way to help your local Humane Society or shelter, if you can't donate money and aren't fond of animals, is to help them do paperwork, writing ads, organizing their supplies, fundraising, or even decorating. They sometimes even need help with painting or keeping up on the maintenance of the dog or cat enclosures. Now, let us reflect on what we have heard today. We must all acknowledge each other on the pros of adopting and not shopping for animals, and what those shelter animals endure in their life while in a shelter. I have told you about the things animal shelters go through, and even the animals that are being bought in pet stores, and how shelters are in desperate need for your help. So, by a show of hands, who is going to start helping their local rescue or shelter in any way that you can?